Training, yeah, it is nearly the end of June. I am hopefully 2 weeks out from an Ironman. I might actually get to race. Obviously, I've been working pretty hard to come back from this calf injury, so training has looked a bit different, but I thought it'd be good to kind of go over sort of the last couple of weeks since we last did like a bit of an update, and the next couple of weeks leading into an Ironman to just kind of show how different it looks whilst coming back to running, and kind of some of the stuff that we've done to, I guess, try and maximise kind of the volume of run that we've been able to do, but also mitigate the kind of risk. Because yeah, it's not really been that long since I've been back kind of actually running. But yeah, I think from like an overview, swimming's being pretty normal in terms of like Tuesday VO2 session, Thursday threshold session, Monday, Wednesday, Friday are all like pretty steady state, with Monday and Friday having a little bit of speed in them. As of last week, so nearly the end of June, we got to the lake for the first time, which is pretty bonkers considering back in 2020 we were in April. But yeah, the weather's just not been good enough, so the lake's been really cold. But yeah, so now Wednesday and Friday will be lake swimming. So like Wednesday, just like aerobic, basically just like an hour of swimming, of doing like a little bit of alternating, like harder boy, slower boy. And then Friday we do a bit of like sprints, like sometimes some race starts, both diving and deep water, and some just like harder swimming to mix it up a bit and to kind of practice the swimming a bit harder in a wetsuit, swimming in a group, practicing like getting on feet. So yeah, that's been good to sort of get back in the lake and practice some of those open water skills. Biking, thankfully, since I saw Matt, I seem to have found my bike legs again. So I think like the last update I did was when I still had basically no bike legs and all my sessions have been terrible. But yeah, thankfully, I think partly to do with the position he managed to put me in, partly to do with like mentally in a much better place because I'm starting to run again. But yeah, I seem to have rediscovered my bike legs. So we're back to like proper sessions. We're still trying to focus on actually trying to like raise my threshold ceiling a bit. Like I think the kind of that more like Ironman pace kind of work I'm pretty comfortable around. Like that's not like a massive issue, but we're basically just trying to raise that a bit. So yeah, the sessions have been much more like threshold. We've been trying to build into them, mainly from like a mental piece of like making me feel better about myself if I finish better than I start. So I actually struggled a bit with that first, to kind of like initially when Casper was putting that in my plan, I was like, oh, he just doesn't think I'm good enough to hit higher watts. So yeah, it's been a bit of a like mental adjustment to do that, but actually it's been working really well. Like it means you can kind of ease into the session a bit. If you're feeling good, like I can just push on a bit more by the end. So yeah, like sessions have been stuff like yesterday we did 3 lots of 8 minutes at kind of lower threshold, 3 minutes rest, 4 minutes at upper threshold, 1.5 minutes rest. So that's quite a nice way of getting like higher intensity, but not like all super high intensity. Been obviously trying to spend quite a lot of time on the TT bike now, partly because of the new front end, partly because I've got an Ironman coming up, so just getting used to that position. And then yeah, running, we obviously spent a fair bit of time getting back to just actually running. So spent a good few weeks of like building up on the lever and then basically taking that overall volume and gradually increasing the amount of time I wasn't on the lever, to now at a point where I've basically spent 2 weeks of running outside, which is nice. And I'm pretty much up to 4 runs a week, doing about sort of 3.5 to 4-ish hours total, depending a little bit on the week. And having sort of set that as the base last week, so last week was the first week of doing that kind of 4 runs not on the lever. This week we've then started introducing a little bit of kind of Ironman intensity. We're very much with the running trying to go off feel rather than like specific paces, because one of the things that I've been working with Lawrence is that kind of sort of feeling how to run a bit better, as opposed to being like, oh, I'm going to either run like 5 minutes per K or 4 minutes. You know, I think we're trying to get more to a point of, if I can feel like I'm running better, actually the pace isn't as important. It's more like kind of getting in that flow, moving better. And actually I've felt much better running. Like this week versus last week has been sort of like night and day in terms of I actually feel quite good running, versus last week I was like, how am I going to get through an Ironman in like 3 weeks? And actually, yeah, starting to do a few bits at that kind of Ironman intensity has made me feel much more confident about doing an Ironman in a few weeks. So yeah, feel like much more confident about the running, in terms of like the calf seems to be reacting well to everything that I've done. I'm obviously still doing a lot of rehab around everything. And yeah, I basically would have done almost 4 weeks of like relatively normal running, of like, you know, sort of 40 to 50K a week with some bits of intensity in. So like that then feels like quite a good place to do an Ironman off. Obviously, like I won't be like the absolute fittest, but I'll be a lot fitter than I could be. And then yeah, gym, same as normal, like a couple of sessions a week. Again, we've been progressing some of that around the calf of what I was doing versus what I'm now doing. Like there's always a bit of balance with, as you increase the running a bit, you're getting quite a lot of stimulus from that. So we've actually dialed back some of the calf stuff I was doing in the gym to ensure that I'm like fresh enough for the running and like recover well, so that I'm not like adding extra risk from the gym stuff. And yeah, other than that, I've basically just been trying to like really focus on recovery. Like that's been like my big, making sure I'm like getting to sleep, trying to get enough protein in, eating well. So yeah, it's all been pretty good. So yeah, the next 2 weeks will just be like another week of basically training similar to what I've done this week. And then pretty much hit the taper, travel out to Vitoria and get ready to race. I'm feeling pretty good about Vitoria, to be honest. I think like it's a good course for me. Like it's a nice rolling bike. I've actually not looked at the run, but I mainly was just looking at the bike. I was like, the bike will be good. I feel like it'll be a pretty good field in terms of like quite a few people that I know quite well are doing it. Like Kat's obviously doing it. There's quite a few of the other Brits doing it, like Steph and Rebecca. So yeah, I think it'll be a fun race to be at, and I think there'll be lots of people to kind of aim for in the race. Of yeah, I mean, like I expect to be chasing Steph for basically all the bike, but that'll be quite fun to do. I'll hopefully be in a similar place to Rebecca. Well, ideally I'll be ahead of her at the swim, but if I'm not, like she's a good person to work with on the bike. So yeah, I think it'll be good. And like I said, I feel like in a much better place now that I'll be able to get through the run without injuring myself. So yeah, I did have an option to go and do Les Sables this weekend, because I'd basically only done like a week of actual running. I was like, I think I could get through it, but there's still like a bit of a risk. And there's like a 400-meter section on the beach to run on. That's like even more risk. And given that Nice is the main aim, I was just like, if anything happened in that race to then not allow me to do Vitoria to then qualify for Nice, then I'd be really gutted. So I was like, for the sake of doing a race, it was also really expensive to get to, so that was another factor. I think the flights were like over $1,000, so I was just like, I'm not spending $2,000 by the time I've done car hire and accommodation.
I've seen from your other video.
Yes, as you'll have seen from my mid-year cost update. Yeah, I don't have loads of money to spend at the moment, so that would have pushed me into the red. And so yeah, like annoying, because again, that actually looks like a really good course, and it would have been nice to get a race in before Vitoria, but yeah, I think had I had another couple of weeks of running, I would have done it, but not worth the risk at this point. But yeah, I think Vitoria will be really good. There's 3 Nice slots, so hopefully as long as I have a reasonable race. To be fair, I've not actually seen the start list isn't out yet, so there could also be some extra people that I obviously only know the people that I've spoken to that are going. So there could actually be some really interesting people on the start list. We'll see.